Okay, hi, good evening. My name is Carlos Martin. I'm an attorney from the law firm of Becker and Polyakov. Our law firm represents the Venetia condominium and has for some time. I've been asked to sort of play master of ceremonies on the two meetings that we have for this evening. The first meeting on the agenda scheduled is the 6:45 Board of Directors meeting. The second meeting on the agenda is another Board of Directors meeting specifically convened for a special assessment consideration at 7 o'clock. Just so you know, I don't know if this first meeting will last 15 minutes. I would love if it did. But if it doesn't, the special assessment meeting will just convene immediately thereafter. First issue on the agenda is the certification of quorum. The quorum is present. I see Dr. Feldman and Sharon Dodge present as the two directors currently on the Board of Directors. That establishes a quorum. Proof of notice of meeting. Eileen's present, I believe. She walked out. But I believe the meeting notice was posted at least 48 hours in advance pursuant to the requirements of Chapter 718 Florida statutes. Eileen, I think, will have an affidavit posting available for anyone who wishes to view it tomorrow or that moment forward. Are there any previous minutes to be approved or reviewed? Huh? Next meeting? You mean the next meeting, not today? Because there's two meetings. Okay. Eileen, you posted the agenda for this first meeting 48 hours in advance?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you have an affidavit that you can provide?
Absolutely, it's in there.
Okay. The next item is the fourth item, additional new business. Because of the several numerous items on the agenda, the first board notice and the second board notice, we're going to hold comments from the gallery until the end of all discussion from the Board of Directors. We're going to have speakers this evening. They're going to talk on some of the items. So this could be a lengthy meeting, and I don't want it to get out of control and us being here till 2 o'clock in the morning. So we will open comments up, the board will, at the end of the agenda. Not the end of each agenda item, but at the end of the agenda. So be aware. So the first item is just administrative. Oh, sure. To my left is Mark Gerstel, Gerstel Rosen, from Gerstel Rosen and Goldman. He is one of the associations and the founding shareholder of the association CPA firm. Obviously, Sharon Dodge and Dr. Feldman, your two board members. Robert, your last name?
Andrews.
Robert Andrews, who is assisting the association on financial matters. Eddie Sardui, who is assisting the association on insurance matters. And, of course, Mylene Ibanez, your community association license manager. In the back, I believe, is the office assistant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What's her name again? I'm sorry? Elda. So that's who's present on behalf of the association and your AV tech. Nice to see you. So the first item is administrative. It's simply a discussion and an approval of a date for a budget meeting. I will advise the board that your budget has to be noticed at least 30 days in advance, so keep that in mind when considering what date you will choose. Sharon?
Yeah, Mylene, we had discussed some dates. Do you have those proposed dates?
Yes, we're going to do it on January 11th at 7 p.m.
That's not 30 days. Yeah, you're going to need more than 30 days. Because the notice have to be mailed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We had said that we were going to have it on January 9th.
And that's too
It's the date
soon.
that we had originally said, and we changed. I'm sorry. So let's do, it's December.
It's going to be January 24th.
That'll work.
Does that work for you, Sharon?
Yeah, it works for me.
Mr. Feldman?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we just need a motion and approval to set the date for
I
that.
make the motion that we set January 24th for our budget adoption meeting.
Okay, are you both in favor? Obviously,
We are.
since you seconded it.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay, so Mylene, we prepared, I think, the draft of that notice. We will
Yes.
send you just the revised version of it, assuming the same time and everything else.
Absolutely.
Okay. The second item up, sorry, you're right. I forgot about the
We
mic.
have one microphone. We'll get others, sorry.
Okay, the second item is also administrative. It has to do with the setting of an annual meeting for the unit owners. This is where you have your election and you have your unit owners meeting for other considerations, whether it be amendments or whatever you want to consider. So I think give it Sharon.
Do we have a proposed meeting date?
Yes, we do. It'll be Thursday, February 21st at 7 p.m.
I make the motion that we adopt Thursday, February 21st at 7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Feldman, you're in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, have you given us the questionnaire for that, Mylene, yet? I think you
Yes,
have.
I have.
Okay, so we'll prepare the annual meeting package as always, no expense to the association. Okay, the third item revolves around the update on casualty loss of September 3rd, 2012, which I'm sure everybody is aware of what that is. The association has been using the assistance of Mr. Robert Bryan and his company, Robert J. Bryan, PA, in filing the claim with the insurance company. Mr. Bryan has written a detailed explanation of the status of the claim, but we'll invite him to say a couple of words about where that is right now, if he's so inclined.
Sure. It's very simple. What we had was a significant loss on September 3rd, 2012. Sharon got all the bills as they came in, promptly notified the carrier of the claim, our insurance carrier, the Aspen Group, and she sent them a number of bills. At about the middle of November, she asked me to assist with her on that because my firm handles almost exclusively claims involving insurance. All the claims my firm does involve an insurance company. And I looked at what she did, and she seemed to be proceeding appropriately. I made a couple of recommendations, one of which is that we submit a sworn proof of loss. And what that does is motivates the insurance company to make a decision. Usually the carriers ask for this, sometimes they don't. In this case, they didn't, because I think they wanted to accumulate more information before we sent them the notification that triggers their responsibility under the law to make a decision. We got the form. You have to get the form from the carrier. The carriers sent me the form. The carrier is being represented by Bill Burke. He's an attorney that represents insurance companies in cases like this. I know him well. I don't think there's going to be a problem, but what we have to do is submit the proof of loss. It's going to be a partial with all the bills for all the losses that have been sustained so far, and the insurance company will make a decision. They'll say, this is covered, that isn't covered. They haven't said anything yet isn't covered. I specifically asked them. And when we get that information from them, we'll sit down and I'll advise Sharon as to whether or not I think they're wrong. And if they are, we file a lawsuit against them. If they're not, then you have to look at other avenues of recovery, which are going to be any other applicable policies. I don't think there are any. And the tort fees are the person who caused the damage in the pipe that caused the flood. But you don't want to file that lawsuit until you know what your uncovered damages are. Because what we recover from the insurance company, we can't then sue them for and recover twice. It doesn't work that way. So that's basically the status of where we're at.
Thank you very much, Robert. Thanks again. I feel encouraged about the exact point where we are in the insurance claim. Unfortunately, this is not like having a car accident and getting paid on the car accident. It's a lengthy process, and it has an indefinite ending. So, Robert has assured me we're right on target. However, we don't know really what the time frame might be for the actual arrival of funds. We spent over $500,000 in that debacle in order to keep our building open. It was absolutely essential to keep it open because a closure would have started a cascade of losses that really would have, for many people here, been insurmountable. What can happen when you essentially lose your certificate of occupancy by being closed is that all the relevant city and county inspectors come in and make you bring everything up to code, present day code, before you can move back in. Obviously, for many people, leaving the building, paying a mortgage, also paying maintenance, and also paying the special assessments that would result in order to accomplish that was an impossible feat. And so we moved heaven and earth, really, to try to keep the building open. And it was a great challenge.
You also had to add that the insurance carrier has already made a partial payment in excess of $140,000.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that is that
Robert?
you look at the different category.
We got a lot of people watching your phone.
Okay. You look at the different category of items that were submitted to them in that $141,000. And the fact that they are not denying liability for the occurrence, and the fact that they have already paid for a number of categories of items, makes it very difficult for them to turn around in a couple months and say, look, that's not covered. So that's a very good thing that they made the partial payment.
Yeah, and part is better than nothing.
Again, this is just, that part is just informational. There'll be no vote on that issue because there's nothing up for a vote. The next item on the agenda is an update from, I believe, Sharon and Mylene on the hallway project.
I want to start with an explanation that you all passed and approved the commencement of the hallway project per the design committee's efforts. And we had $109,000 in our cash balance that was about to be spent on the carpeting several days before this debacle that took place on September 3rd. At that time, we planned to buy the carpet, and as we told you guys, to go floor by floor using only the proceeds from collections and from previous insurance claims. That's where that $109,000 came from. We exhausted all of our capital in this event in order to pay for the services that we had to engage in order to stay open and to be made whole so our building could operate again. And so we don't presently have that cash. It's still our intention that those hallways would be done. And I believe Mylene is going to talk a little bit more to you about some of the different aspects of that.
Well, I just wanted to say that we have done a lot of work and really appreciate all the efforts of the design committee in getting everything that they did for us. We had the money, the funds, as Sharon said. Unfortunately, we've used them, but I can assure you we have everything right now at a go. As soon as we can get the money back from the insurance company, we could start with the project. We're not going to let that go. We have all the bids necessary, so as soon as, again, the funds are available, we will commence the project.
I think our report is designed to reassure you about something that we consider a critical matter still. No fire life safety issue will be neglected in any way. Anything that is pertinent to this loss will be paid for first, but that it's still our intention that this project be concluded. We consider it essential that this happen for the residents of Venetia.
Okay, the next item on the agenda has to do, actually it's the next two items. They have to be separately listed here, but we'll explain that in a moment. This has to do with approval of a loan application to BBT for a non-revolving line of credit in an amount not to exceed $500,000. Proceeds from the special assessment would be used to repay the loan. This is a special assessment that's going to be considered later on this evening. The purpose of the line of credit, I'll let Mr. Robert Andrews explain. He's been assisting the Association on Financial Matters.
I wanted to introduce Robert to you as a financial management consultant involved, I think, probably in hundreds of condos over the last few years here. And he's a very, very incisive, in-depth evaluator of finances, and he's been tremendous help to us.
Last month, the association had previously attempted to solve some of its cash flow needs by applying for a loan at Banco Popular, who is the lender for the association in the past. The bank declined the association's application. Sharon had given us a call and said that she needed some assistance. We reviewed the current financial situation at the end of October 2012 and determined that the association at that time was $120,000 overdrawn in its book balance and had another $150,000 of accounts payable, as well as the fact that it had numerous accounts that it was carrying that needed to be adjusted. We've been working with Castle over the last month to get those items cleaned up. Additionally, we went to BB&T, who is in the process of finalizing a loan package for the association to provide short-term capital to the association so that it can continue to pay its bills and operate while a special assessment is passed. The question that's on the agenda is merely a procedural item where the board needs to approve an application to the lending institution, and that's just a procedural matter.
Thank you, Robert. Mark, do you want to say anything about that at all?
Well, I think we'll talk about it when we, talk about this, the need for the special assessment, why we had to assess $600,000. But the $600,000 assessment will take months to get in. We have run through, as Sharon mentioned, our operating capital because of the insurance damage, because of the 2004 special assessment is now finished, and the operating account had to bail us out. We had the water metering item, which is a $150,000 unbudgeted item. So we've had 3 extraordinary events that have happened to us that basically wiped out our operating capital. So before we can get the assessment, we need to get whole in a number of areas to keep the lights on, to keep the insurance in the building. So it is a short-term need that is right now, what they're dealing with, how many checks in the drawer we can release on a day-to-day basis. So it's very stressful for Mylene and the association, but they have definite short-term cash flow needs.
So we need a motion to approve the loan application and for the board to execute the loan closing documents and approval on that.
Per the previous instructions of Mark Gersel, our CPA, and Robert Andrews, I make the motion that we approve the loan application and proceed to seek this line of credit.
Second.
Okay, both in
Aye.
favor?
Yes.
Okay. Just for dotting the i's and also on to approve the loan closing documents. That's the
And
next
to
item.
approve the loan closing documents as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the security contract. Let Sharon and Mylene again speak on that issue.
I would like to ask Joey Corona to speak to the Security Committee's findings and recommendation on the replacement of a new security company.
Joey Corona. I'm the chairperson for the Venetia Security Committee. We were asked 2 weeks ago in this room to do a vetting interview process for new security companies. We included 5 companies in our interview and vetting process. And I'd like to recognize Melanie here, fellow committee person, and also Harris Lansky, who's absentee tonight. But I'd like to recognize their efforts. And on our behalf, the process has come to a completion, and we recommend, and I'll produce for you and hand off to you, we recommend Elite Guard going forward as the company that we felt would be best going forward for Venetia.
Could you hit just a few of the highlights that you felt they have to bring to this committee?
The major deciding factor for us is that they have their own school, their own training ground for their security guards. That was a big factor for us. So, from the pool of security guards out there, they train their own guards. They've been involved in some of the state procedures as far as the hours that are needed for guards. So they've been kind of a vanguard or a leading institution. They've been in Miami for some time. They have mainly condominium residential buildings. We thought that was important in contrasting and comparing with other companies that we interviewed. And this is a short turnaround process. This is a big transition in a short amount of time. And during the holiday season, this makes it even more of a importance to move the process forward in a quick manner. They were on board from the beginning. We got the answers that we wanted to hear. And so that was part of our strong recommendation in their favor. And there were other companies, and I would say that after you review the contract, this is again, we're only allowed to recommend to the board. So, if there needs to be a next step, then we have the other recommendations in line. But our recommendation, with everything we've done up until this point, is Elite Guard Security Company. And we interviewed, I don't know if I mentioned before, but there were 5 companies that were involved in the process. And there are many security companies down here. It could have gone on for a long time, but we felt that we did the process we need to do. And so I'll hand this off to you.
Thank you very much, Joe.
If I could, just take one more minute of your time. I think all of us as residents here, we know the importance of security. If you've been here many years like I have, we've gone through many security companies here. And we actually point a finger back at us this time. We need to do our work. It's not always about the security company. We need to do, and with the support of the board, we need to do the post orders. We need to have the weekly meetings that we should have done in the past, that we will do now, that we have a cohesive committee, security committee. So, and we're also going to ask, as I mentioned before, this is a difficult transitionary period right before the holidays. Not much lead-in time. So, as an example, you know what it takes from a security company. They're not going to know your names at first. And they're going to expect you to use your fobs and your access keys, etc. I don't want to belabor the point, but I think this is our time that we can move forward and maybe get the customer service, the security service that we all want here at Venetia. So I'm kind of asking you for support. I've gotten the support from the board. The committee has been happy with the company that we vetted and interviewed. And so I think nothing but a positive change can happen.
Thank you so much, Joey, and I have to say, it's been beautiful to watch this committee at work, and it actually was a delightful experience for the board to get as much information and a very detailed evaluation of the different companies. It was very helpful. I make the motion that we accept the committee's recommendation. I've seen the contract. I believe that we are able to move ahead without any additional cost, in part due to the different way that this company bills. So I make the motion that
Very
we
strong
hire Elite Security.
Is there even a second? Are you both in favor?
Absolutely.
Aye.
Okay.
Commend them for their work. Tremendous work.
Yes. What day the switchover was going to be?
The 15th of December.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, is the next upcoming board meeting. That's, I'm sorry, no, the management update. I missed one. I'll let Sharon and Mylene again speak.
Yeah. I think all of you are aware that Continental has been gone from our building for some time. You may not know much about the terms of their departure, but they were actually due to insufficient and inadequate management and some serious problems that resulted. Well, it's not a microphone, Sue, unfortunately. You want to come on into the room?
No, there's a seat here, Sue.
There's some empty seats in here.
There's a seat right here in front.
This is a speaker device for those who are going to be watching a recording, so they can hear my voice. I'll try to speak up.
Okay, Jane.
The management update is addressing, first of all, something that most of you are aware of, that we brought in a new management company. It's a management company that had been vetted carefully by a committee that listened to presentations. We had many references. All references were followed up on. Unfortunately, in the debacle that happened, we found that they did not perform according to our expectations. They quit, actually, 5 days after the plumbing accident that resulted in a near shutdown of our building. And they were persuaded to stay on board while we made this transition. We spoke with several other management companies, but given the fact that by that time we had 2 months until the end of the year, and we had great urgency because of our inability to obtain additional financing, we had great urgency to drill into our own books and find out what the heck they've been doing. Now, many of you received inadequate and incorrect billing in the months that followed Castle's takeover, and we understood that. because it is a huge transition to move all the finances into a new system. However, they were with us 7 months, and many of you, I don't mean you guys personally, but I mean many residents here have not paid anything for the last 2 or 3 months. And I understand that our not charging you interest and penalties while Castle was misbilling you may have resulted in sort of taking a pass. But actually, I suspect that in some cases, Castle has simply not caught up with the accounting. Now, we are prepared to bring all that in-house. And we have been, with Robert's help, creating a total cleanup of our books so we know exactly where we are. And that's been underway with great energy. Do you want to say something about that, Robert?
Yeah. At the end of last year, the association has been carrying, even the last several years, has been carrying a large number of dead units on its books and records. At the end of 2011, you had over $2 million in accounts receivable with an offsetting entry for an allowance for bad debt. At the end of October, you were actually carrying $2.7 million on your books as for doubtful accounts. In those accounts, we also found that there were units that were owned by the association that were not being properly accounted for from writing them off to a bad debt on a monthly basis. There was interest accruing on those that had been going back some time. We embarked on a program over the last month to clean up 67 different unit owner accounts so that we could actually determine which accounts are actually delinquent. So we've been through that process. We've been through the first run of that. We've gotten it cleaned up for the association. We've been working with Castle to make that happen. And now we're into the process of those unit owners that are actually delinquent. And we're actually assisting the association in moving forward where they may have a tenant in that unit, where there needs to be a rent demand that needs to be done, so that the association can collect the money that it's due.
Mark, will you say a word on these matters?
I mean, again, there's a big undertaking. We're talking about a lot of things going on in association, so it is a big undertaking. Robert's been spending an inordinate amount of time going through your books and records. The reason it's so important to clean up the receivables is Banco Popular rejected your loan application, not based on your ability to pay, but based on the size of your receivables. And so it does have an impact. We still have the same number of units, but we write off all these old balances. All of a sudden, your balance sheet shows, with a building of $2.5 million budget, accounts receivable of $300,000, versus right now accounts receivable of $2.7 million. So everybody out here can understand how that impacts, you know, borrowers and people, prospective buyers and things like that. So it's a very healthy change. It's going to help facilitate BB&T accept you, because you do have some short-term cash flow needs that the board has to deal with, and that's forcing them into the special assessment. So what Robert's done is very helpful to get you bank financing.
That includes bank financing in purchases. We voted in reserves this past year. That's a tremendous step forward. But actually having our books really reflect the real amount of accounts receivable will make us very desirable to banks to loan in situations where unit owners want to buy. Okay.
Again, that was mostly informational and where you're going down the road with regards to management. The next item is ministerial again. It's ministerial. It's talking about the next board of directors meeting.
We scheduled another board meeting for this coming Monday, December 17th at 6 p.m. to just follow up on all these items.
I realize that you guys have had an experience of probably not enough information. We're about to begin a phase where you will probably get too much information. But it was really very difficult to come forward and conjecture until we knew where we were, what the solutions would be, and what the future held. And we do, at this time, have a pretty realistic appraisal of that. So we'd love for you to attend again next Monday night, and we can drill into some of the things that you have further questions about. We're trying to move tonight through a very strenuous agenda and give you enough information that you know a little bit about everything. We hope going forward next week to let you know a lot more.
The last item on here is consider rules relating to records requests. The board has asked me to draft a set of rules allowed by the law to put reasonable limits on records requests. During this, call it a crisis, I guess, you've also been responding to and allowing inspections of records to an extent that has actually cost you quite a bit of money. And I guess someone else can speak on that. Or, well, there's a packet out there that I think was prepared by management with regards to the costs relating to the records inspections that you've had over the last year.
It starts from 2/21/2011 till now, and it is a total of $41,068.37 thus far. This does not include all of Michael's time, Michael Bangora, the other attorney.
It is a partial.
It's a partial, and there's still some records that we have not included in here. We have not included emails, responses. I received 22 emails in one day from one person. That is not included in this either. So it's just more or less a general, more or less what we've been able to, with the lack of time that we have right now, focusing on this insurance claim and trying to get our vendors to understand our situation and doing the best we can. This is, again, what we've able to put together. Again, I can assure you that there is much more that is not on here of time that we have spent and not dedicated to the important thing, which is getting the association, obviously the unit owners, back to where they need to be.
I'd like to ask our former vice president on the board to address not only her stepping down from the board, but also her experience with our abusive use of highly conflicted record requests.
Thank you, Sharon. I did want to squelch any rumors that my resignation was in any way acrimonious. I was very honored that you voted for me last year, and it was certainly my pleasure to serve as vice president. And I decided in consultation with Sharon and Mark to resign several weeks ago because I thought it was best for the association. I'm not here full-time, as many of you know, and I thought that in the crisis that we were in, we really needed somebody that was available locally, full-time, and certainly someone that I respected as much as Dr. Feldman to assist Sharon and in this very, very, very critical and difficult time. So there is absolutely no acrimony. I am prepared to continue to support you in any way I can, support the board, support Mylene and the association. So I did want to squelch any kind of rumor that there was any acrimony. In terms of I guess what I saw in my last year and a half, because before that I was appointed to serve out one of the terms, I think that there are basically 3 people whose goal is to take down one of the members of the board. And in the course of doing that, they want to take down the entire association in the guise of document requests and claims against people's licenses. The document requests have been escalating, and to the point where I believe they seriously impact the ability of the association to function. And it was appalling to see that in the crisis that we have just lived through, that Mylene and Josue and so many other people, and Sharon, sick as she was here full-time. Some people slept here. That in that time, people were continuing to file document after document requests, and not for one piece of paper, not for a particular document, but for dozens, if not hundreds and hundreds of documents. It is not only an abusive process, it is clearly meant to take down the association. The other thing that has been really appalling is that those same 3 people, or some of those 3 people, have filed complaints not only against Mylene's license, but also against one of the city inspectors who helped us to continue to operate legally during this crisis. You do not file complaints against people's licenses unless, one, the situation is incredibly egregious and you have the most phenomenal documentation. You just don't do that. It really is incredible to do that. But also, when you think about it, they filed against the inspector. To what end? To take down the building? To close it so that, I mean, I have another home, so, I mean, clearly I'm not as affected as the people, you know, whose only home is here. Where would they go? How would they pay for it? So I have to say that Sharon puts up with a lot. She works for free. I mean, she takes time out of her own work for all of us, and I think it's appalling that some people are intent on taking her down. The same with Mylene, who's like an innocent bystander. I mean, she has stepped in to handle 15 jobs for us. She doesn't even live here. And, you know, I feel you really have, I mean, you've really done amazing work, and so have you. I mean, I've seen you, I've talked to you. During the whole fiasco, we talked on a regular basis, but Sharon was here. She stepped up and did what she needed to do, and really, I resigned because I could not continue to help her as much as I think that Mark could help her. So anyway, thank you. I really appreciate the work that all of you are doing, and our attorneys and our accountant.
Thank you so much, Loretta. Can we just have a moment of appreciation for a wonderful person? She promises to continue to help, and she's already doing so. So I believe we are next going to consider rules relating to records requests.
That's what she was speaking about. With regards to the requests, I have here a draft that I prepared of some rules for the association to consider. These are based on my basic set that I've previously gotten DVPR approval. These are tailored to fit the situation that you have here at Venetia, as well as the resolution. These are relatively simple, and I'll paraphrase the rules. The board can read them if they want into the record. 1 request a month per owner, or written inquiry per month per owner. Has to be done by certified mail, because, to be honest with you, what's happening is there's being associations receiving 20 emails. And which one is the written inquiry, and which one is the records request, and which one is going to get a complaint with the DVPR. You know, some of them are being mailed in, some of them are not, some of them are being faxed. So this sets down a procedure for which every owner has to follow for a records inspection or a written inquiry. If it's not followed, the association doesn't have to provide the records. Every owner is entitled to an inspection of records, and the association is not saying that you don't. You have a right to come and inspect. The question is when that process becomes harassment or abusive. And what we're trying to limit here is harassment or abuse. So that's the set of records for the association to consider. If it wants to consider it now, or it can consider it later, whichever you'd like to do. If you want, I can read them into the record.
Please do.
The draft. Thank you. So this is a very simple list of 8 rules. A member desiring to inspect an association's record or submitting a written inquiry shall submit a written request via certified mail to Venetia Condominium, on-site manager, 55 Northeast 15th Street, Miami, Florida, 33132. A written inquiry must be sent by certified mail, return receipt requested as required by Florida statute. Inspection or copying of records shall be limited to those records specifically requested in advance in writing. The owner must pay for copies before they will be made or delivered. Copies will be returned to the owner within 10 days. No member may submit more than one request for inspection or copying or written inquiry in a 30-day period. No owner may request the inspection of more than 10 records at one time, nor shall the association be required to produce records for inspection exceeding 100 pages at one time or for more than 3 hours per session. If the owner's request exceeds either of these limitations, the association shall provide records for inspection in the order requested by the owner up to the limiting factor, and the owner shall be notified that other records will be made available for inspection at another inspection session at a later date and time. So if an owner sends a request to see all the association's records, which take up 2 rooms the size of this room, you know, the association doesn't have to sit there while the person inspects it in that time. All inspection of records shall be conducted at such location designated by the association. Copies of records requested shall be available within 10 working days of receipt of a request. In the event of the above referenced time frame is impracticable due to the voluminous nature or condition of the records, then copies will be made available as soon as practical. A member may not request inspection of records already inspected in the preceding year. So if you've received it or you've reviewed it once and you have to wait a year to see it again. So if you need it that badly, make a copy of it. Any violation of these rules shall cause the immediate suspension of inspection or copying until such time as the violator agrees in writing to comply herewith and does comply. Any written request for inspection or copying not complying with these rules shall not be honored. It's a simple set of rules.
I just wanted to help you guys understand. You saw a spreadsheet, but I have seen, and I think Loretta will also attest that she has seen weeks in which half of the efforts of the management office were document requests. And this has escalated during the time that we've been trying to recover, trying to get our finances in order so that we can move ahead, really trying to deal with a very complicated insurance claim. Like, nobody does that for you. You have to do it as an association. Even with a great attorney, he doesn't know everything that we know. And we have to fill in the forms. We've got to produce the documents. We've got to get all the bids. And during this debacle, we have been dealing with a tremendous increase in record requests. And you guys can view exactly who they're coming from. And I don't think you'll have any problem seeing it. It's a very personal hobby. It's blood sport, and I think that the cost of it is actually, not only are we experiencing the anguish that it causes when we can't get the work done that we need to get done, but there is also a very large cost, which I believe is going to be part of our special assessment, because our operating budget has fallen $40,000, in excess of $40,000 short, because we don't yet have the records for Mr. Gongora's time on this. We're spending about $50,000 per year on record requests.
So you want to consider it today, or do you want to?
I think, should we?
You want to add something about the cost, Mark,
Yeah,
per
you
page?
I think you have to, you're counsel.
No, yeah, I mean,
Do you have to put in
just
that?
reasonable. The Condominium Act allows the association to charge a reasonable amount for copies. My law firm, for instance, charges about a quarter a copy. Whatever you think is reasonable for the time and the paper and the ink that it costs. You know, I wouldn't go anything more than 50 cents, to be very honest with you, because that likely would be found to be unreasonable. But
I
up
would
to you
say
guys.
50 cents.
Okay. It's a lot of money, I agree. But it's also, it's not just, remember, the copying costs are not just the ink and the paper. It's also the administrative official who's making the copies and that time that it takes. So, you know, it's up to you guys.
I propose that we add 50 cents per copy to the rule.
Okay. Mark, what do you think?
I think whatever you charge is.
Whatever I charge?
Yeah.
I charge a quarter. Just be fair. Just be honest.
Can we do it for a quarter?
That's what we're doing it for now. And honestly, it's all the other time that, it's not records requests, it's the emails. And from the same group of people. That's why I'm saying that we,
Well, if we get,
You're not gonna get any emails.
if we have the certified letter, the emails will stop.
obviously,
But my thinking is that if a firm as big as his
Hopefully.
can charge a quarter, maybe the
okay, so.
And I will say the number of copies has not been anywhere near the number of records requested. We're talking about thousands of records requested, and we're talking about maybe a couple hundred copies actually made. So, you know, again, don't forget.
That seems reasonable to me.
Quarter?
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So make it a quarter?
Okay.
Okay, do you want to make a motion to approve the rules?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the rules as read into the record with a proviso that we'll be charging 25 cents per copy as item number 9.
Okay, Mr. Feldman?
yeah,
Any Both in favor?
yeah.
Yes,
Okay, we're going to send out a copy of these rules to all members in writing with a resolution so that they're aware of them.
thank you.
Okay, that is the end of the agenda on the first meeting. Okay, so we'll take questions after the next item, which is the last item, which is the special assessment consideration. The agenda item reads, and I'll read it out loud, and then I'll pass the mic. Consider resolution adopting special assessment in approximate amount of $600,000 to fund current and future expenses associated with operating account depletion due to damages suffered to the common elements resulting from emergency water intrusion and power outage in the building, pending insurance claims that have yet to be paid and shortfall in prior special assessment funding. I think I'll give the mic first to Mr. Grosso to explain the funding shortfall.
Again, we started the year with about a $300,000 operating fund. That's on about a $2.8 million budget, so that's very reasonable. This year, 3 things happened. We had the damage right now. We're about $150,000 out of pocket and growing, and additional repairs to be made. This year, we've had the water meter one-time expense, and we can talk a little about that. That's about $150,000. And the special assessment, the 2004 special assessment, that ended, and to finish that $3.7 million special assessment, we had to pay from the operating account $90,000. So really 3 non-recurring things, and that's very important that they're non-recurring. The good news is that the operating budget, the recurring stuff, doesn't seem to be going up. So when the budget comes out, hopefully there's not going to be any material or maybe not any increase. But the assessment is needed because of those 3 non-recurring things. You've heard how the cash is overdrawn. Work still needs to be done to protect the property and to minimize damage and risk for problems in the building. So that's where we stand right now.
Okay. Robert, do you want to explain a little bit about the special assessment, or do you think Mr.
No, I think.
Okay. Sharon, you want to talk?
Yeah, just that I want to read something from our documents. Item number 5, if the net is insufficient to pay for the estimated repair for the actual cost, the association shall levy a special assessment to correct the deficiency in proportion to the unit owner's, sorry, I can't read it, that portion of the deficiency affecting a restoration of the common elements of the individual unit owners for their portion attributable to their individual unit. The Board of Administration finds a reasonable certainty that the portion a specific individual unit may pay. I'm sorry, it cuts off here. Basically, this mandates our passing a special assessment after this type of catastrophe in order to meet the need. It's not actually just an arbitrary decision. If we do not have the funds to meet the catastrophe, we have to levy a special assessment per our documents.
Okay, Mr. Feldman, do you want to make any comment on this? No? Okay. So do you want to take a vote?
Yes.
Okay, so if you want, I can frame the question.
Please do.
Okay, this one's a serious one. So, okay, so proposing a motion of the board to adopt a special assessment in the amount of $600,000 to fund current and future expenses, to fund operating account, which was depleted as a result of damages suffered to the common elements, resulting from the emergency water intrusion, power outage in the building, pending insurance claims that have yet to be paid, and a shortfall in prior special assessment funding. You
And I would just add to that, and deficiencies in the one-time expenditure for the remetering of our commercial water within the association. And I will ask you all to recall that this actually eliminated a $770,000 water bill, and we had costs of approximately $150,000 to remeter as our part of the bargain in the dismissal of that water bill. I make the motion that we accept the special assessment as dictated by Carlos Martin.
Well,
Second.
I know what you mean by that, but okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We need some repayment terms.
We can discuss the terms now. Just on repayment, how you want to break that up.
First payment due.
When would the
Yes.
first payment be due?
The first payment is due to any funds borrowed in the line of credit.
No,
when
the
is the
owners,
unit
when they have to pay.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Robert, do you have some of that information on when they would begin repaying?
I think January 15th for 4 months
Yeah, and monthly.
and monthly.
We are anticipating that the amount would be first due, the first payment on January 15th, and monthly after that, for a total of 4 payments. Is that correct, Robert?
Yes.
So we're gonna-
The actual amount depends on your percentage share of the common expenses, and that you'll be getting a payment book. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, as I promised, I would open up the meeting to questions at the end. Be kind, be gentle. State your name before. Because there's a large group of people in here, we're going to keep it to 3 minutes per person, which is what the law allows. So,
I just had another thought instead of a special assessment. We were all inconvenienced by this for somebody that allowed a contractor to work on Labor Day when there was no staff on hand. One of the rules as a condo manager is that you never have contractors working on a holiday. So these are old pipes, an old building. They know this, and they don't know how to turn off the water, evidently. My thought was, instead of all of us being punished and having to come up with the money while you wait for the insurance, my thought is maybe we could pay our maintenance in advance to give you the capital to function, and then by that time you might have the insurance money to pay.
I can answer that question real quick. Sorry. This is probably not something that they're aware of, but the way that your maintenance, what maintenance really is what we call it, is regular periodic assessments, right? Everyone's aware that every month they got to make a payment. And the reason, what you don't know is Chapter 718 Florida statutes dictates how an association can adopt a budget and how it can collect assessments. First, it says that the association has to adopt a budget. Every year you have a budget meeting. And then it says that it has to break down that those payments per unit by percentage share, which is based usually on square footage. You all pay a percentage of the total expense of this building. This is per capita here?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's two options, per capita or square footage. So here you pay per capita. But then it also goes on to state that you cannot pay that less than quarterly. What that means is the association has to work out a payment plan on that budget no less than quarterly. Most associations do it monthly. There is no mechanism for the association to accelerate regular assessments on a unit that is not delinquent. Okay. The only thing you could ask is that owners pay voluntarily, and the status from Mr. Gerstle of your finances as they currently stand today cannot withstand the hope that they will pay out of pure assistiveness, I guess. I know that's not even a word, but the only real method to assure that the association is going to receive the money is either a loan or a special assessment. The special assessment, because they want to break it down over 4 months to make sure that owners have time to pay it, is not going to reap the amount of money you need immediately. That's why you're doing both a loan and a special assessment that will go towards repaying that loan once it's collected. That's the explanation.
So the special assessment can pay the loan?
The special assessment will go to pay the loan in part, yes, and in part also to once, again, it's a line of credit, right? So you draw upon it as you need. You don't necessarily take all 500,000 if you don't want to. It's up to the board. It's within its discretion to take out as much as it needs or it doesn't need. Ultimately, it has to be repaid. The special assessment is in some extent
pay the interest on what you use.
until you have, well, whatever the contract terms are, we have to look at the contract obviously to see what those terms are. But ultimately speaking, you're assessing for more than you're actually taking out as a loan. You're assessing for $600,000, and you're only taking out $5. So you have to leave open the possibility that that money will be used for other purposes and other expenses. The water remediation work is still ongoing. It's not completed. There are units that are still in the process of the work. So unfortunately, your idea, I understand it. There are owners that I'm sure are willing to pay their assessments in advance to help, but you can't count on it. Sorry. Thank you. Other questions? There was a gentleman, I saw a hand. No, ma'am? Got it? Okay. State your name, please.
Hal Spade. I'm at 34H. I'm way in the back, so I'm hoping I didn't hear this right. Did I hear $2 million in receivables?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
$2.7 million?
Yes,
Is this developed over a period of time?
yes.
Can you? Is there a breakdown of how this happened? And I mean,
Well,
are these people refusing to pay their maintenance? Are these building-owned units? Are we just talking about assessments?
You're talking about a combination of things. We found that there were units that are owned by the association, that the association is renting commercial space. You own, what, 12 units? Is that on a monthly basis, part of that accounting function is that if whatever that maintenance payment is needs to be written to bad debt, you're collecting rental revenue against it. That was not occurring. You also had units that the association took back where the balance were not written off. There were other collection efforts that it appears were trying to be made. And looking at the actual performance of the association so far this year is that the association has been moving forward with recovering bad debt. So far through the end of October, the association has recovered $76,000 worth of bad debt that had previously been written off. These accounts have just been being carried from one cycle to the next cycle to the next cycle. If you look back at the last couple of years of work, is that this number has been growing. It just didn't mystically appear.
So at one point it had to be $1 million, for instance.
Yes.
Like what? A year ago? 2 years ago?
No. Long.
Many years ago.
Yes.
People not paying their monthly assessments?
Yes, as units go into foreclosure, it's not uncommon that an association may carry a unit for 18 months, 36 months. It just depends on what period of time.
I have one more question. I'm extremely upset. You know, I always pay my assessments. I always pay my special assessments. I don't understand what happened here and how it happened here and who did this here. And I think as an owner of property here, I deserve to know. I want to know.
I agree with you. Can you have me take a microphone for a second? I'm going to try to enlighten you just a little bit on what this amazing large number of unpaid receivables really is. It's pretty close, actually, to the number that we were owed back, Stacy, when you were looking at unpaid receivables. I think we were around $2.1 million or something like that at that time. She probably doesn't remember. But what happened is that as units were foreclosed or sold in short sales, and a portion of the debt vanished. It vanished because there's a state statute that says when a bank forecloses on a unit, it has to pay, it used to be only 6 months of maintenance. It's 12 now. but we've been doing this a long time. We've been collecting somewhere between $250,000 and $400,000 a year on debts that really are gone. Those people are not.
Let me explain. Your prior your original management company, okay, they had, in a way, we'll argue, a vested interest in not having those accounts wiped clean, okay? So let's say there's a foreclosure, and at that foreclosure, the bank takes possession of the unit. What the statutes say is the bank has to pay 12 months or 1% of the original.
You're talking about safe harbor.
Right. Oh, so you know, so
it's only
right, but wait.
For units. Excuse me.
Right.
It's only for units that are financed by the maker of the original loan.
Right.
Not by units, prop paper that's sold to other banks and picked up by private lenders.
This is the first mortgage.
Correct.
Simple. Okay. This is just an example. This is just one example. I'm just explaining. So the bank takes possession. Under the law, 718.116, the safe harbor says 12 months, or it used to be 6 months, or 1% of the original note, right? So let's say the bank pays the 6 months or the 1%. What should happen for accounting purposes, and I'm not an accountant, don't play one on TV, is that the association should then write off the rest of the debt unless if it thinks it can collect maybe personally from the debtor, from the unit owner, who likely has no money to collect from anyway. If you think you can do that, then go ahead, but it's very rare. You should wipe that debt clean. What was happening is that debt wasn't being wiped clean. It sat there as if it was current AR, account receivable, okay? And it was accruing interest, and it was accruing costs, monthly fees, yeah. So all those accounts, you can imagine over the past 10 years, that became delinquent and from one way or the other transferred ownership, either through a short sale or the association doing its own foreclosure and taking possession, was not being accounted for properly in the management company system and showed up as a $2.7 million AR when in fact it was, Robert, do you have an idea what it might be?
We actually wrote it down at the end of October to about $68,000.
That's all,
Right.
$68,000.
So you've been carrying a debt that in fact is owed to you from these owners maybe, but that you shouldn't be carrying on your spreadsheet. You shouldn't be carrying on your balance sheet. That's the problem. Now, why does a management company have a vested interest in keeping that debt around? Because if it can collect part of that debt, then it might be entitled to some of that interest, some of that costs, right?
Let me actually rephrase that.
Go ahead.
Is
Not
that
him.
in accounts? No, I'm sorry. Let me correct my answer on that.
Okay.
Is that we actually wrote down the actual receivable to a reasonable number, but in doing so, we actually have additional bad debt allowance that needs to be taken. So there is an additional number an adjustment that will have to be made at the end of this year.
But then just be clear, I don't want to make sure that it's clear to everyone that we are not, in essence, assessing for the bad debt. That's not what's happening. What's happening here is your operating account was depleted because of 3 crises that you had this year. One was the remetering. Does anybody not know what the remetering was? Okay, I can explain it very quickly if you need me to.
Go ahead.
Okay, what happened was your building has both commercial and residential units, but you had one set of meters for the whole building. So Miami-Dade Water and Sewer just decided all of a sudden, oh, wait a second, 3 years ago, I should say, wait a second, we've been charging you the residential water rate all this time since your building was constructed, but you have commercial units, so we're going to now go back 10 years, 7 years?
They went back 3 years.
3 years and charge you the commercial water rate for the entire building that you have to pay today, which was amassed to $750,000 that they wanted your building to pay in April?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
770.
we convinced them that that was a bad idea, that this is a partially and actually majority residential building, more residential units than there are commercial in this building, and that what needed to happen was a blended rate based upon the commercial and the residential. And they said, okay, we'll let you do that and we'll write off the 750, but you have 770, but you're going to have to meter the commercial units separately so that we can figure out what the proper amount is to charge for commercial use in your building. That remetering cost $150,000. Is that correct, Mark? That had to happen for you to write off a $770,000 potential claim by Miami-Dade Water and Sewer this year. So that was one. So you had a $300,000 operating surplus or operating account at the beginning of the year. There's 150 gone. Next was your September crisis, right? There goes another 150. Now you're at zero. And now you're also talking about the 2004 special assessment that you did not collect $100,000 because of bad debt, and so you had to make up the difference to the bank at the end of that at the end of that loan period. Okay, so now you're $100,000 in the hole. Is that a fair, unsophisticated explanation of that, Robert?
Yes.
Okay. Does everybody understand now where that money went? Yes, ma'am. Why don't you come up?
I'd like to talk about the September event. How much insurance do we have in place for that from the contractor? And I've got several parts to
Okay,
this,
well,
so
there's,
maybe.
let me explain the prongs of insurance here, okay? The association obviously has claims against the contractor's insurance, against the owner and their insurance, if they have any, which we don't, I'm not involved in that, but we can have Mr. Sardui explain. The association has a claim against its own insurer, okay? I think those are the three potential sources of recovery on insurance. Is that fair, Eddie?
Yes.
Do you want to speak a little, what are your, the amounts of insurance that they have is, I don't have that.
About, I think it was the last that I heard,
Yeah.
Eddie, was that 7.5 million?
The liability that the AC contractor has is in total $6 million per occurrence.
6 million. And is our damage going to run in excess of 6 million?
No, it's not going to be anywhere near that amount.
And what amount of insurance does Castle carry?
Okay, the amount of insurance that you must mean the association master policy.
No, I mean Castle Management Company.
Castle Management, to my knowledge, is carrying at least $1 million per occurrence in liability.
Only one, because it seems to me that Castle is liable for not having someone on the property and or available to shut the water off immediately.
I'm not sure where the idea came from that there was no one available to shut the water off. Because Damien who is our chief maintenance supervisor, was in the building and he came immediately to shut it off. I'm not sure that you guys realize that when the pipe broke, that all of the contents of those big towers upstairs flooded out. It didn't take a long time to flood out. Now, I got there a little bit later than what you guys saw, but there was a lot of water there. And I was in Coral Gables, and I was in the middle of breakfast when I got the call, and I know I was called right away, and I left my eggs on the plate and drove here. And that's about 22 minutes if there's no traffic. So by the time I got here, the water had been shut off, but there was a lot of water. And I think that, I can understand that under any circumstance, we would be very, very unhappy about the irresponsibility of any worker who was moving a heavy AC unit without using the proper lift. And we did establish very quickly. We established it actually by bringing the worker who caused this event into an office and sitting down and getting him to write down exactly what he did that caused the accident. And then further, to take responsibility for it and acknowledge that he and his company would be responsible for the remediation. And then to sign it in the presence of a witness. So we know exactly what he did. It was a stupid thing, which was two guys tried to lift a 1/4 ton AC unit out instead of sliding it onto a lift as they would ordinarily. And I said, why didn't you do that? And he said, oh, we forgot to bring it.
But Sharon, how was he here in the first place on that day?
Well, let's take our questions one at a time, because otherwise it's going to turn into a free for all. Do you want to just ask that same question, or is that fair?
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I mean,
You
we know.
No, you're on the mic.
Ask him.
Just ask Hal's question.
Ask him.
Repeat it.
How was he here anyway?
How was he here on a holiday?
Well, I am not exactly sure. I was not part of the scheduling of that event, but I know that an architectural modification packet was filled out. It was signed by the owner of the company and by the unit owner. I know that a proof of insurance came from that contractor. I know that a permit was filled out. And I also know that, I believe, actually it was even Mark, years ago, Mark Feldman, who told me that we should allow, if we allow emergency plumbing events, we should allow Comcast to come out on holidays and Saturdays, and we should allow air conditioning work during the summer months, that it was unreasonable to treat it as anything but an emergency to have a failed AC unit. And so really at that point, we expanded the Monday through Friday allowance for emergency plumbing, for emergency AC during the months of July, August, and September. And we expanded the allowance of Comcast to right up and down in our elevators on both holidays. And you know, it really was the notion from many unit owners that we work Monday through Friday. We need an opportunity to be able to deal with these kinds of problems in our units.
So the work was scheduled and had the blessing of Castle management.
I guess, yeah. And Continental before them.
Continental wasn't here.
I mean, in
then.
this instance.
This instance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really think they're negligent of that and they should be held responsible for it. Now, what you're saying on the insurance coverage, that covers all of the losses, then we're just advancing the money? Then do we get it back?
Potentially. Let me answer that question. I knew that question was coming. Donahue, can you get the...
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Phil. Sorry, Millie. Okay, so here's the situation. Just because the contractor's insurance can pay up to $6 million doesn't necessarily mean they're going to. We are pursuing those claims as well as our own insurance in case they don't pay. Obviously, if they do pay, that would be fantastic. The problem is we don't know if they're going to. I can use an example of QBE for anyone who knows what that is, and the hurricanes of 2005 as an example of coverage that should have paid out and didn't for years. So the association is pursuing those claims vigilantly, but it cannot wait because of the current status of its finances. It needs to act to have money in its account to fix this problem. Can you imagine telling the owners that have been affected by this that they have to wait at the whims of an insurance company? Assuming they don't pay right out, which they haven't, the next step would be if you exhaust all measures you can before to file a bad faith claim, that could take years and years. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. The association's own insurer has already paid out in good faith a certain portion, and you are working towards getting a full payout on that. If the money is repaid, if the money is paid to the association and the association finds itself with a surplus, the way the governing documents of the association work is the board of directors then has a determination of how it will spend those funds. It can choose among several options. One is to put the money in operating account, and it can defer expenses for the following year's budget. One, it can return monies to the association's members on a per capita share basis based on how you pay assessments. It's great to think about as a possibility, but sitting here right now, it's not happened. So while that is a possible source of future good feelings and warmth, you have to deal with the realities on the ground today and hope for that at a later time, because it's not happening anytime soon as far as I know. It could happen in the next 3 to 6 months, but I can't really tell you it will. Yes, sir.
My name is John Pasquale. I own a air conditioning company. I'm an air conditioning contractor. And I feel
Just
based on what...
Make it very clear that it wasn't your company.
No, it was not my company.
You don't get tarred.
Okay. I'm here through association, but the long and the short of it is that the contractor, along with the building personnel, should have had that water riser shut off prior to any operation. This is standard operating procedure for most of us contractors. So I feel, based on, again, what I hear and what I know, and I don't know it all, is that this procedure was not followed properly. Had the risers been shut off and the valve broke at that point, nothing would have happened. So this has happened to others in the field, and myself included. We've had these problems before, and so we take these precautions. And so it really wasn't followed. You wouldn't have had this, and this would be a no-brainer at this point.
I agree. I
Okay?
spoke with Rarecon, another air conditioning contractor that we work with, and they most always request that.
And that's the reason for it. And you can do 100 jobs, everything turns out great, you just do this one, and an accident do happen. And you take these precautions so that you can eliminate this possibility. So that's my take on it, and that's where the problem began, before the man started the job.
Thank you. Yep.
All right? It wasn't his fault. It was somewhere above his pay level. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danny Jimenez. I just have one question or one suggestion maybe. I don't have a problem with your assessment. I think that if we could assess for the two items that had nothing to do with the event in September, that would be best. And wait till this insurance pays, and then maybe at the end of next year, if we need to assess again, assess for the balance that you want to collect. But I think it's kind of unfair to assess for something that you've already partially been paid on, and that you're probably going to be paid out anyway.
Oh, you want me to? Okay. Sorry. You've actually been paid out some money, but you've also expended $150,000 already on the repair. And you need money to continue the repairs. Otherwise, you would have to stop all repairs with relation to the water intrusion and wait until insurance pays. And I can tell you right now, the first owner that calls code enforcement out, the first thing you're going to get is a violation for not proceeding with the repairs. So there's that. Additionally, and I'm not an insurance expert, but I'm sure they'll tell you that your own insurance requires you to begin work and to mitigate the damages. And if the damages are worsened by the fact that you didn't make the repair and that claim increases, they are not going to pay you for the increase in those claims. You have a real mold issue that could spread if this is not remediated immediately. So while I understand your point of view, and obviously everybody would rather not have to pay for a problem you create, to be honest, it's sort of, and I hate to say it, sort of a caveat emptor to purchasing in a condominium. It happens. And you have to sort of roll with it when it does, unfortunately.
Brett Slaby, 27A. Can anybody tell me the proposed payment? I don't understand per capita, so help me out. What does that mean?
It means if you have 400 units, you divide it by 400. Each one pays 1/400th.
So what is the proposed per each unit?
You're going to get a payment book, I believe.
We don't know yet?
Well, no. Is it here? Is this it?
No.
No.
That is those are the costs.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But that is not.
Do we know what it is per unit?
40 units.
How many units is three? But does the commercial
382.
does the commercial pay a quarter?
Commercial
Pays a
units.
quarter.
Remember, the commercial pays a quarter. How many residential?
341 residential and 41 commercial.
So add 10 to 341. So 351.
Yeah. And then we've got
We read this. No. Your accountant's going to give you an approximation. Please don't hold him to it because he's just approximating.
About $1,750
per unit
total, divided by 4 months, $437 a month.
More or less. Approximation.
By breaking it into 4 months, are you adding interest or no?
What interest? No interest, no. Yes.
When you say the 430, whatever it was you said, are you including all the units that don't pay because they're in foreclosure or they're not?
Okay, they get billed the same.
They get billed, but if they don't pay, what happens?
We've already, this is an estimate. There is an estimate of what we're not going to collect of the 600, and what we're left with is going to be enough to get us
through. Okay.
Bad debt estimated.
I have a couple of questions. And I'm not, savvy on this. I mean, I only know.
What is your name? I'm sorry.
My name
Identify
is
yourself.
Steve Pagansky, Unit 31C. I have some questions about how this works with the insurance, because I know, like, when I've had insurance claims before, what has happened to me is that the insurance pays it and then it's subrogated. So is the building's insurance paying and then it's subrogated by the?
That's up to the
the building's insurance pays it, and then
Well,
you know,
hold
it's
on.
they get it from the other guy's company.
We're pursuing claims against the contractor's insurance, but then we've also submitted a claim to our own insurance, obviously. If your insurance pays out fully on the claim, it has a right to seek recovery from the responsible party. That's how it works.
No, I'm not talking about me personally.
No, I'm talking
about the building.
No, I'm talking about, okay, in a perfect world, your insurance company will make you whole immediately, okay? And then you no longer have need for a claim against anyone, right? You're whole, right? So then they have the opportunity, as their insurance company that was wrong, because it wasn't their fault that they had to pay the claim, they had a contract, but you have assigned rights to them to go after the contractor and recover what they paid to you. Yes, as an association.
And you're pursuing both?
Of course, because if your insurance company doesn't pay, then, or if you're there, you don't pay, you want to make sure that you go after all potential funds that are out there for you. Yes.
Other than the other thing I just want to mention, I don't want to, you know, go off and off on it, but the condominium documents do say that you cannot do this kind of work on weekends and before a certain time of the day or whatever. And the guy's insurance, I saw it when we called, because Mylene gave us information about who to call. When I call them, they say, oh, he's not accepting responsibility. They told me that like 2 weeks ago, that the guy from Central Air Plus on this is not accepting responsibility for this. That's what they told me from that number that you guys gave me. So I guess my question is, you know, what is really happening here with this whole thing if the guy's not accepting responsibility?
Let me tell you, John.
Sure.
What's happening is the following. You can't collect twice for your damages. So while the AC contractor might be responsible, if you let's say the building has about $500,000 of damages from the building, the unit owners might have different rights against the AC contractor, different than the building. The building has I believe, an Aspen Insurance all perils policy that we're proceeding under. That policy is in the amount of $10 million. That's going to be vastly sufficient to cover the damages. The damages you guys are going to have are going to be $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 as far as what we know about so far. If the insurance company pays all of your damages, why would you sue the AC contractor? The AC, if it's paid, you could sue him, and he gets what's entitled in the laws called a set-off for what your insurance company's paid. So it would be asinine to sue the guy if you've already recovered your damages. And if I was representing the AC company, the first thing I'd do would be to take this recording and use it to blame the condo for all the damages anyway. You guys are going to be great witnesses against yourselves. With respect to subrogation, there's going to be items in the claim that are not covered by insurance, by your own insurance. The mold is not covered. There are virtually no policies that cover the mold. What you have to do is advise them what the association's obligations are to the individual unit owners for damage caused by the water. That is going to be the measure of damages against the AC company. With respect to subrogation, the law on subrogation is very simple. The AC, our own insurance company, has a right to subrogate against the AC insurance company. So what's going to happen is they're going to pay out X amount of dollars. They're going to tell us what's covered and what's not. We're going to make a decision as to whether or not the insurance company's right when they say what's not covered. And then you have two options. You have option number one is to sue your own insurance company, which is always the better thing to do if you can. And number two, sue the AC company for the deficiency. The decision to do that is going to be based on how much is not covered. If $15,000 isn't covered, it's not worth suing the AC company because they already have defense.
So are you a lawyer? Are you our
yes.
lawyer? Okay.
I am yes.
Yeah, who are you?
We wanted to
I'm a unit owner.
You're looking at me. I don't have any problem.
Let me tell you, that's what he's
I
doing.
understand.
What I do.
Don't look at me.
What I do is my law firm handles complicated civil litigation. It's mostly products liability, rollovers, catastrophic cases, medical malpractice cases. I hope you're not a doctor.
I'm a criminal lawyer.
There you go. You are?
So if anyone kills someone in here, it's half off.
Depending on who it is, it might be free.
Did you shoot him twice? Actually, the second one's half off.
And I handle, in all my cases, there's an element of insurance. I'm not suing someone unless they have insurance. So that always brings up coverage issues. That always brings up what's covered and what's not. And it brings up the issue which he tried to relate to, what's called extra-contractual damages.
Right.
Okay, so what you need to do is determine, number one, what the entire claim is. Next, you got to send a proof of loss sworn for that entire amount, which we haven't done yet. Even though it was suggested we had, we did not. And the insurance company's not going to do that for you because that starts the time limit on them having to make a decision. So they're going to pay a certain amount. Then we're going to decide what aren't you paying. They haven't said anything they're not paying yet except for mold, which is clearly not covered in their
So
policy.
you should have made a video and said this about a month ago, so everyone feels a lot better.
Okay.
You know, I think it makes a lot of sense now.
Okay, I'm the only one here for free, so let's, so number two,
Well, except for the board.
my time will go. So with respect to this issue, what you have to do then is determine if you're going to sue them on what they say is not covered. You know you're going to have the mold issue, and what's going to happen is the condominium has to determine what their exposure is to the unit owners on the mold issue and anything that's not covered.
Right.
When you have that number, you decide whether you're going to sue the AC company. If that number is big enough so that it makes sense, you do it. If that number is not big enough, you don't do it.
In your experience, have they operated in good faith, this kind of insurance company?
I have
Something like
no
this?
experience with Aspen Insurance Company. Aspen Insurance Company is a surplus lines non-admitted carrier. So Aspen Insurance Company, and they do commercial risk like this. I have not had a case against them. Very, very coincidentally, I know the adjuster. And the way I know the adjuster assigned to the claim is that when his father was crushed by a forklift 15 years ago, I represented his father. So it's just a coincidental thing. So I know the guy, I have a good rapport. We're going to file the proof of loss this week. With respect to subrogation, for what our insurance company pays the association, they have the right to go back after the tortfeasor, that's the AC company, and get reimbursed. That's called subrogation. They're entitled to the rights for what we pay. But if we have a claim that is not completely covered by our insurance, we have a right of action against them too. And the good thing is that the state of the law in Florida is that we get to be made whole prior to the time that anything gets paid back to our insurance company. That's what you ought to do. You shouldn't rush to sue anybody. Don't sue the AC contractor yet. And that guy has defenses, by the way, because I'm doing a case for a unit owner who was seriously injured in the water, and that guy's going to have defenses. He's going to say, and I don't think his defenses are good, but that case hasn't been developed yet, and when the discovery comes in, I told Sharon I would share it with her. But he's going to say that these workers were out on a foray of their own, and where it was not an authorized job. But he did pull the permits, and I think he's responsible by pulling the permit. The other option you can have for suing, besides this talk about suing yourselves, is that you can sue the unit owner. I doubt that would work. The people are definitely independent contractors. The unit owner is only responsible if he pulled the permit or if he is directing the method and manner of the operation, which clearly it wasn't the case because the guy wasn't there and there's some investment group that owns that particular unit. That stuff I litigate all the time. Let's say there's some contractor that doesn't have insurance, he's on a job and he kills somebody. We already always try to pull in, like we just did a case against the Mandarin Hotel, pull in the owner because they're the deep pocket and say, you're responsible, and they usually win on summary judgment unless they're controlling the method and manner of the job. So suing the unit owner, as far as the association is confirmed, is of no moment or import. That's always the problem. Okay? So that's basically it.
Thank you.
The other question, the other thing that I noticed is on the guy's paper, he initialed off that he was not going to do, he agreed not to do the work on the weekend and the holiday. I don't know how that falls in with him, because he agreed not to do it, and then
Who's the him? The AC
the
owner
guy
company
that
or the
signed
people that did work?
the architectural modification form.
The owner,
Was that the owner?
yes.
Okay.
That's, yes, that's the owner.
Okay. Would you like
So,
to?
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
So when the building was shut down for a week and we all were in hotels, et cetera,
Okay.
and those who didn't go to hotels had to buy air conditioners, et cetera, in order to survive, et cetera. Are you saying that we can't sue the air conditioning company?
You unit owners have rights that are personal and individual to you. Okay, you can't sue the association for the fact that the property may be uninhabitable because of a tort of another. But everyone who owns a unit should, number one, if you have damage, make a claim against your insurance company. Whatever isn't covered, you can consider suing the AC contractor. And with respect to loss of use of the unit during the time required for its repair or rehabilitation, that's never covered by your own personal policy unless you have extraordinary insurance. And the individual would have to sue the AC contractor if you were out for 2 months or 3 months or whatever, but it's probably not enough money to be worth doing.
And
But
just,
it's all-
just for clarification's sake, what the association covers in its insurance pursuant to the statute is the common elements. And then with regards to the portions of the unit it covers, it basically covers up to the drywall. That's it. It doesn't cover anything else. So personal belongings, floor and wall coverings, whether they be wallpaper, paint, things like that, wooden flooring, other than flooring that was originally installed. So I don't know what was originally installed in these units, but I'm assuming it was carpet or something like that.
What about the mold?
The association's insurance company won't cover mold, but as to where it is, mold is generally, in this instance, being found on the drywall and in the common elements. So that means the association is going to have to remediate it. Mold is something that spreads, obviously, so you want to remediate it immediately, which means the association is going to come out of pocket for that, and there is no coverage for it under its own policy. The association, as Mr. Bryant mentioned, could recover possibly later on from the contractor, because the claim against the contractor will be for negligence, not a mold-related claim, although the mold is the damage that resulted from negligence. So again, he's the insurance expert. So everything he said jived with what I understood. So, okay, other questions? All right, thank you all for coming out, and we'll see you next week, Monday.
Thank you very much.